In chapters 9 through 10, we've observed the central campaign of Joshua's entrance into the land of Canaan, the promised land. And one of the things that we see in these chapters, I hope you'll pick up on it, is that here Joshua, as we're starting the northern campaign in chapters 11 and 12, you'll see a lot of things that are done as fulfilled in Moses. Joshua was the leader, not Moses. And we'll ask yourselves the question, why is this in Joshua's campaign, why so much of that is connected with Moses? And I think the point is God is trying to show to his people continuity, that whatever God had promised in his leadership of Moses, and he took him through the wilderness, what caused Moses not to be leader instead of Joshua? His sin. He wasn't allowed to go into the land of Canaan. Joshua takes his place, and he's now journeying in. But the continuity is there. The same God, continuity, that brought them out of the land of Egypt, led them in the wilderness, helped them cross the Jordan River, has solved put forth the southern campaign. What did God show to the world of that he was in control and he was in power in the valley? Saw the sun stand still. Sun stands still. The moon stands still over the valley. Does man do that? The other night I was able to see the moon with the sun up. Sometimes we see that. And they stood still in the sky. God had the power to make that happen without a catastrophe taking place. And right a few verses after that event in chapter 10, we find that indeed at the end of the day, the bodies were taken down. It shows the same God that was on the east side of the Jordan River is the same God on the west side. The same God that has done miraculous things in the wilderness and bringing water out of the rock to sustain his people, are the ones in power that brings forth judgment upon the nations there. Continuity is being emphasized. The same God that is indeed over all of these campaigns and over his people is the same God that's now winning for Joshua. And think about in the days of idolatry, the pagan idolatry, you had a God for about everything. You had a God for that part of the land. You had valleys and the mountains. You had gardens of the seas. But what God is showing is that there is indeed only one God. And that has always been the case. So Moses, as God had commanded Moses, Joshua did. There's continuity in God fulfilling his promises, not just to Moses and Joshua, but Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That nation would be blessed, and that they indeed would have the land of promise. So as we enter into this northern campaign, we want to observe, let's see here. I got a map for you, so we can turn that, it'll help me. Notice, I'm reading from chapter 11 and verse 1. It came to pass when Jabin, king of Hazor, heard thereof. What did he hear? Well, what's happened in chapter 10 of the campaign that, thank you, okay. I'm going to need some batteries in this one, I think. It came to pass when Jabin, king of Hazor, heard thereof, he sent to Joram, king of Madon. So if you can read, as I read, look at the map, you'll see these places. King of Shimron, and to the king of Akshaph, and to the kings thereof in the north and the hill country, and the Arabah south of Kinnereth, and the lowland, and in the heights of Dor on the west. So you got the Dor on the west, you got see here. You got the area of Mount Hermon at the north. You have this idea of this northern campaign, and you have these cities. It's kind of like a slanted J. You talk about Hazor, and you have Akshaph and Shimron and Madon. You have those particular towns, and they have their kings and their cities. You have that, and that becomes a very important thing. Please go back. Thank you. So I hope that's not so disturbing to you that you haven't got the picture with me. So our first question is, what city in Canaan was head of all the kingdoms at the time of Joshua's northern campaign? So we see that indeed this is the point that he's making here of this area. So where's Hazar? And we have Madon and Akshaph, and we have Shimron, and all these places. So he's sending the word out because the southern campaign has been successful. Joshua has won, and that becomes very important. So of these cities, which was the head of all the kingdoms? Hazar, thank you. Hazar, you don't see that in the first verse, but you see it in verse 10 when you says, and Joshua turned back at that time and took Hazar. He's taken the other cities. Now he comes back, and he took Hazar and smote the king thereof with the sword. For Hazar before time was the head of all those kingdoms. So he had that preeminence among them. It's going to be an important city and town. But that's the point that we're looking at. That's the key city. But these others are going to be there, and there's going to be conquering them as we have the battle at Merom. And that's the waters of Merom is where there's going to be a battle taking place with the kings. So this map gives you a picture of this northern campaign. What sea is there on the map? We call it Sea of Galilee, but Sea of Chinnereth. It's Sea of Tiberias. It's the same city. It is the same city, same sea in the inward land, in the valley, in the plains. That's the sea that we're talking about, not the Mediterranean Sea. And it becomes a part, and you'll look on a bigger map where you'll see that, well, this is up north. Jerusalem, all the cities in the south have been from the south. This is indeed the northern portion that we're looking at. So question number two, who is its king? Jabin? And was that his name or his title?
Probably a title because it meant like exalted one, and he was one of the judges.
Yeah, in the Judges, the 4th chapter, you'll find, so this king's killed, and you got Jabin over there in Judges still alive. So he's not still alive. It was a title, like Pharaoh. The word means enlightened one, intelligent one. So wouldn't that be a good one for your king? He's intelligent. You don't want a dummy. So you're intelligent. That was the title of their king. And so that's probably a title that we're talking about. So here is indeed these kings coming together, and they're involved in trying to take care of a problem. That's with Joshua. So what caused the king to appeal to other kings? Yeah, what had been taking place, David? Yes, found little Israel. They had to join forces. And so here are 4 kings coming together. We've had 5 kings in the southern campaign, 4 kings, but that's not all of them. Because he sits here and tells us in verse 2, and the kings that were on the north, in the hill country. So when we speak about the hill country, what is that? Northern campaign would be where you want to stay. What would be the hill country? I was curious, so I looked it up, and I think it's helpful. You got the mountains of Lebanon, but south of there, that we're talking about, you don't have to go up that far north, but south of there, as you're approaching the Sea of Galilee from the north, you have what was considered the hill country, the mountainous areas, the hill country. And so that would be there. And the Arabah to the south, what was the Arabah? Well, the Arabah is starting at the northern end of the Sea of Galilee, in the valley there, but modern, as time went on after Joshua, the Arabs and so forth would look at the Arabah as being, we see around the end of the Dead Sea, all the way, that valley, all the way to the Red Sea. So the Arabah was an extensive place, but it starts up here in this northern area, the Arabah, which is indeed in that valley, that wilderness valley that is connected with, starting from the north part of the Sea of Galilee to the Dead Sea to the Red Sea. That was that area. And it says south of Chinneroth. That would be right south, the northern part of the Sea of Galilee. And in the lowland, and in the heights of Dor. You've seen where Dor is, the heights of Dor. Indeed, that's getting close to the coast of the Mediterranean and Sea. But there was the heights there. There's hills there. It's kind of always looked upon that. And then so to the Canaanites, where were they located? We're going in the land of Canaan. We're going to destroy the Canaanites. Well, where were they located? He says here, north, south, or east, west? Okay, it says east-west. East-west. The Canaanites on the east and on the west. Not north-south, east-west. They're on the east side of the Jordan River. They occupied that vast of land. And then as he talks about the different people, the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Jebusite in the hill country, up there in that northern part, and the Hivite under Hermon. That's very much north that we're looking at in this northern campaign. And in the land of Mizpah. And so you begin to see that's that northern campaign, and here are the people that occupied that area, and they've heard what they've done in chapter 10, and all these kings and their land did Joshua take at one time. Because Jehovah, the God of Israel, that was our last question, who did the fighting for Israel? Oh, Joshua did. But we know who's behind it. Who is it? It's Jehovah. It's God. And Joshua returned and at Israel with him, and they went to the camp where? Yeah, we've talked about him being in a camp. We talked about this section, chapter 10, being an excerpt. So he's back at his home camp where he has been after destroying Jericho and Ai. And that's going toward the Jordan River. And so this is where he's going to now start his northern campaign. So we see the people involved, that they're going to be conquering. We see the kings. We see the major, had been at least, the major city, probably fortified city of Hazor that was above of all these other kings, and it was the prominent one among them. And so here he's laying the picture of this northern campaign. And so when all these kings rose together, and they came and camped together, where? Yeah, I'm not going to go back and get the map, but that's right in that center that we're looking at. In the waters of Meron, to fight with Israel. They needed a bunch of help, and they already knew that. But 4 kings didn't work the other way, and so the campaign, and these kings are not going with all the other kings that are involved, are not going to be able to conquer God's people, because God is the one true God. And he's showing that he's been God from the very beginning, and it's not going to stop now. And they're not going to succeed. But they had a lot of people on their side. And question number 4 says, how is the multitude of people in the Northern Confederacy described? How are they described? Sands of the seashore. Is that a lot? Have you counted the granules of sand, Gulf of America? Have you done that? Have you tried? You built a sand castle. Did you count that? It's massive, and that's what they had on their side. And verse 4 specifies that very very clearly. It's as the sand of the sea. It's that abundant. That's the multitude of people. And that's a vast amount. So what did they have, question number 5, that the Israelites did not have? Yeah, I know chariots, that's true. But I think the horses go along too, because these horses probably were doing what with the chariots? Got a horses, but look at those chariots over there. Don't they look good? Who's going to saddle up with that? How many slaves do you have to do that one? Or how many horses do you have? And that has a lot to do with what Joshua's going to learn from God, what he's supposed to do to win the victory. They didn't have chariots. They didn't have the fine horses, the strong horses to pull them. And therefore, they're at a disadvantage. But who's on their side? God is. And he can give you daylight so you can finish your job. The sun can stand still. Or you can be involved in following the teachings that God gives him to do. And we see that's exactly what is going to take place. So in question number 6, who delivered them into Israel's hands? Again, God is making it known. What is it? It's Jehovah. Jehovah's going to deliver them into their hands. And that becomes very, very important. All right, question number 6. We see that in verse 6. Question 6. We'll have, what did God command Joshua to do when he encouraged him of victory? I'm going to give you victory. It's in my hands. But now he tells him to do something. And what does he say to do? Yeah. Hock the horses. So Joshua comes, and all the people war with him against them by the waters of Merom suddenly fell upon them. And Joshua delivered them to the hand of Israel, and they smote them and chased them from unto Sidon and unto Roth Mayhem and unto the valley. And that's how they're going to be scattered. But in verse 9, he repeats what he has told him to do, because he said in verse 6, I'll deliver them all slain before Israel. At that time will I deliver them. God's going to deliver them. And I want you to be therefore to hock their horses and burn their chariots with fire. That's why I connect the horses with the chariots as being something that the Israelites, that was something they didn't have on their side. And so we have this idea of hocking or hampering the horses. How was that done? Not how, but what was involved with that? Sept? Okay, hamstrung. That's exactly right, and the horses wouldn't. But see, that's not the God I want to serve. He's not kind to animals, is he? And you know what? They kill horses when they hamstring them, hock them, cut the sinews from their hoof, their back part of their leg. They're involved in, that's just not being kind to animals. And God said other places to be kind to animals. Was this a death sentence to a horse? No, it's not. Now, that's why they say euthanasia for an animal that's that way. And I've seen plenty of movies that if a horse broke his leg, you put him out of his misery. But they could walk, they would hobble, but they couldn't pull a big load. They never could do that again. It's not going to grow back. They're not going to heal. And without the surgery, but they're not going to be able to do that. So he's hampering them. All God is telling him to do, hampering them where they'll have those horses. They're not dead. And they will be unable to pull the chariots. They'll be unable to pull the load. And that's going to defeat the purpose of having this military strength. I'm going to deliver them into your hands, and this is what you do. And just so we do not misunderstand what God told him to do, we have in verse 9, Joshua did unto them as Jehovah bade him. What did he do? He hocked the horses. and he burnt their chariots with fire. He did all that God commanded him to do. God gives him the victory. That God gives the victory on all from Egypt, wilderness. He gives them victories on the east side and the west side of the Jordan River. There's one true God, and he is indeed charged. God wants himself to be known in the world. That's why he did that with Pharaoh. God wants to be known. It's the glory of God that God wants us to see. And here, would this give confidence to Joshua and his leadership? Yes, and he's going to do it. No second guessing that. That gave confidence that indeed that was reason. And we did slay them. We did win that victory over them. And so he didn't just do some miraculous thing. He asked Joshua, I'm going to deliver them to you, but you do this. And then they were hampered then to be able to fight against them as they should. And of course, they're going to win that battle. Any questions upon hucking the horses, the American Standard says?
Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
In Genesis 15:16, God tells Abraham that the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet full. Well, it's full here.
It's coming full, isn't it?
And this idea that God has no right to do this, the iniquity was full, and God was basically fed up with their idolatry, with their iniquity, and it was time to clean them out and give the land to the children of Israel.
Yeah, and just to take it, transcend to greater importance from horses or animals to the people, everything that breathes, they were taking them out. And there's a consequences. And why would they kill women and children and all of that? They were not going to allow that idolatry which was entrenched in the cultures of these nations. And the idea of the Amorites becoming full, it's now full, as Joel says. It's time for judgment. And here's a God that's given you opportunity to see his glory. But he's a jealous God. He's not governed by time. Well, he hadn't done this for 400 years. I guess there's no God. It's his time. And it's the same God that rules nations today. He rules in the kingdom, rule of man. Well, what are men? They've had 4 kings here, 5 kings there. As we'll see, had over 31 kings. They battle. And they're going to be involved in realizing that God is over all of that. He wanted his glory to be seen among the nations. And there were nations that indeed would be involved in following after God. What impressed me in just a recent reading through Job, and I hadn't thought about it much, is that was Job under the old law?
Yes.
If he was a patriarch, he wasn't. And that's where they finally find Job being a patriarch. If it's early in that writing, which I believe it is, he was in the days of the early patriarchs. They didn't have the law of Moses. And yet, in his battle with his friends, in a section in Job where it starts with, I have made a covenant with my eyes that I shall not look upon a woman to lust after her. Where do you get that? I'm not a miser for my money, with my money. I help the poor. He's telling his brother, this is what I do. Where did he get that? These are principles. And we have nations that indeed would follow the same thing, the adultery, stealing, and killing, and all of those things. And they hadn't had the law of Moses yet. So that's got me. I always thought Job was under the law of Moses. I think he's way before that. But the principles he lives for how he lived his life are outstanding to show God's law. When he gave the law to his people to distinguish them from the world, he gave those principles and codified them into the law of Moses. Is it still wrong to commit adultery? Yes, and what did Jesus teach as he's fulfilling the law? He said, don't look upon a woman to lust after her in his heart. That takes us back to what I'm calling the patriarch, Job. And it's the Old Testament, they were looking at that as that, well, it said don't commit adultery. But I'm saying to you, you guard your hearts. That's been a principle of God. And we find it brought forth into the New Testament. But one thing we do not find in the New Testament law is that we keep the Sabbath. So what's the day that we keep? Oh, weekly. It's the first day of the week, clearly set forth in the New Testament. But I think there's principles of here Job was a patriarch, how God was revealing himself to the fathers even before the law of Moses, if this is true. It's just something to consider, because when I read through that, I said, well, Job, you're just doing greater than the old law. But he wasn't under the law, I don't think. But part of that patriarchal age that we're looking at, and you look at the internal evidence in Job, you begin to see, well, that was probably early on. He didn't refer to the law of Moses. He's for this is how I'm living my life. And I think it was under the direction of God guiding them through the fathers and teaching them to the next generation. But this is what he did, and get back to the point. When it comes down for judgment, it's the wrath of God, but it is a judicial wrath. It is one that God is fair. God gives people time for them to change and see that there's indeed one true God. And that's what he's trying to emphasize to the nations as he takes them out, to let them know this is the same God that's been showing his glory through patriarchal times, even until the times of which here a nation is formed, and the wilderness wanderings and all of those things. It's the same God. But it comes time for God to bring judgment. And that's what should sober our thinking. The reason he hasn't come yet, 2 Peter 3, is because he's long-suffering today. Because Christ has come. He's ascended up on high. He's going to come not to step on this earth. We'll meet him in the sky. His judgment is going to come upon them. And yet, when the judgment happens, when our funeral happens, we're already in the place where we're going to either be comforted and exalted in heaven, or we're under punishment and going to hell. And I know there's people that disagree with this, but I want us to realize that I don't see any evidence that that's changed. There are people that teach that when Jesus was resurrected from the dead, and these are our brethren, resurrected from the dead, he opened the doors of Hades. And when we go to heaven, we go to be with Jesus. We're right there. I'm in Jesus' arms. Our religious secular world and have a religious content, we're safe in the arms of Jesus. That's where we are now. And I think we're in that spiritual realm apart from a body. But if that's the case, and we're going to heaven naked. And 1 Corinthians 15 tells us when the Lord comes back again, and that woman, when he comes back, that's when we'll be glorified. That's when the Lord will be glorified. And we just kind of take that off the table now. That's something to look forward to. We'll see him as he is. We will be changed in the twinkling of an eye. Then we will then be transmitted into heaven. Judgment has already taken place if the rich man went to Hades, and you can't get out of that. But why is it? Because we're going to have a judgment. What's that about? Because we've got to determine, we're going to judge everybody, whether they've been good or bad, and that's going to be that way. But the idea of we got to go through this because we don't know where you're going to be yet. So some say they're already in heaven, so that's fine. Well, they're going to have to come back and get into a body and then go back to heaven. Ho-hum. I've been there. No. Paul says, I don't want to be naked. I'm looking forward to that glorification. So I'm looking forward to that. I believe my loved ones are in the Hadean world, and they are comforted if they've served God. But one day, they're going to be raised first, if I'm alive when he comes. But in a twinkling of an eye, he's going to be changed. They're going to come changed as they come up from the grave. And that will be a glorious time. And sometimes we take that away from God. That's his time of glory. And right now, we are in that stage of where we're in that spiritual realm. And I think about, whoa, the rich man's been over 3,000 years. What a horrible thing. Who says we're governed by time? We're experiencing time when we leave this earth. Who said that? We're being ushered into the realm of the dead, but there's no time frame there. Sun's up there, well, it's another day. I'll mark this off the calendar and I'll be out of prison 31 days here. That's why somebody that's been maybe a loved one, we may see them 1,000 years from now. It'll be like morning to them. Oh, here you are, I'm glad to see you. And so I just think we have to pay attention to Scripture. And I don't see where that has, Hades could not keep him, so that broke it up, and you put Hebrews with that says he's made his realm, that now we have straight access to God in heaven. Yeah, we do, but that doesn't mean we go there when we die. He just opened that up, that we have a high priest there, and he hears our prayers. That's context. But if we go straight to heaven, that's fine with me. I'm just saying, my hope and my expectation is that wonderful day when he comes in his glory, every knee shall bow and confess who Jesus is. Why that? We've already had, everybody's condemned and they're in their places. They're in a place of punishment, their place of comfort. It's the day of the Lord. It's not just the last day. It's the day of the Lord. Where here was the important part of history. Are you on the right side of history? And when we're having your funeral, you'll have already experienced, yeah, I'm in the comfort of God's comfort. He's not spatial. He doesn't have to have a place. His place is in heaven, but he's a spirit. And he can give comfort in the way that he knows fit. And we're not governed by time any longer. And we're going to be, we are, because we're thinking in terms of years. But what has that been like for the saints like Paul? And is Paul got a body yet? He said, I don't want to remain naked, 2 Corinthians 5. I want to be glorified. That's what he's looking forward to. And in that realm of comfort, he's waiting for the Lord to come and do what he has to do. And that's when judgment will come with people that will be raised from the grave. They've been in torment. They're going to be cast into hell. Not Hades, into hell. That's the place of eternal separation and punishment, lake of fire and brimstone. There's fire in Hades. But it's not the final time when God's glorified. And I care about that. Yes, sir. Yeah, the Catholics have him going there. Yes. All right, so when he went in, I think some of our brethren feel that, and he conquered it. So you don't have to go to hell. You don't have to go to Hades. But sometimes they conflate the two. That's true, and we realize that that's always distinguished in the Scripture. So therefore, we have it distinguished. So there's no Supreme Court above God. Thank you. There's no Supreme Court above God, but he's just. And it will be a just judgment. And the wrath of God comes, and when people have had their time to glorify God and they don't, there's indeed accountability. And right now, he's cleansing the nation, and you can call it genocide if you want to, but God is bringing judgment. Amber writes, back to our first point, is that taking place. So, question number 7, where did the prominent battle in the north take place? In that the waters of Merom, that's where they take place, and there's going to be victories that. What three directions did the enemy flee? Notice in verse 7, so Joshua came and all the people war with him against them by the waters of Merom. Suddenly, so we came on you suddenly, well, they don't have horse to pull the chariots and so forth, and fell upon them. And Jehovah delivered them into the hand of Israel, and they smote them and chased them into great Sidon. So this would be a good test. You memorize your maps. We're in this northern campaign, so when he chased them to Sidon, he's chasing them what, northward? I think so. Unto Misrepoth Mayhem, that's kind of to the west, under the Mediterranean, and under the valley of Mizpah eastward. And they smote them until they left none remaining. And Joshua did exactly what he's told to do. Nothing's remaining. So north, west, south in the northern campaign is what we're examining. What did Joshua do to the city of Hazor? So he comes back and he fights against goes against that city of Hazor. So what does he do to the city of Hazor? He burned it, didn't he? And so we asked the question, how complete was Joshua's obedience to the conquest? He did exactly what he's supposed to do. Let me go back. He didn't do that to every city, but he burned Hazor, and he states that. So he completely obeyed God's commandments, but he burned the church, but he also burned that city with fire as well. I'm trying to see if we got time here. Let's go question number 10. How complete was Joshua's obedience to the conquest? Exactly what he's supposed to do. How long did Joshua make war with the kings of Canaan?
It says a long time.
A long time, and we'll get into we'll get into Joshua 14, and let's just go ahead and read ahead because this is going to be what we're studying. Look at Joshua the 14th chapter in verse 10. And now this is, children drew nigh to Joshua in Gilgal, verse 6, so there's our camp back again. And now behold, Jehovah hath kept me alive, as he spake these 45 years, from the time that Jehovah spake the word to Moses while Israel walked in the wilderness. And now, lo, I am this day 85 years old. I'm 85. But, we've been studying, and we say, well, they came out 2 years after they would come out, and they were there 38 years. And that was the idea of the wanderings in 40 years, and he says 45 years. So some have interpreted that this was either a 5-year or 7-year campaign where he fought all the kings. Long time. It wasn't a matter of weeks that I think the southern campaign was fought. But it may give an indication from Scripture where we're observing these all years until now when Joshua was old, 85 years old, speaking to his people that have been that length of time. So 5 to 7 years, that's a long time to be battling, but that's the idea of making war. And then they're going to have peace. How did God harden the inhabitants' hearts in Canaan? He hardens their hearts. How does he do that? When you have a hard heart, you're going to do what you want to do. You're going to do what you have to do. And what have they made up their mind to do every time they've seen the power of God? They harden their hearts. We'll get a group together and we will conquer, because our hearts are hard because we want to destroy the people of God. There is indeed that hatred, but God did that so he could bring them down. And I think that's interesting to see those taking place, and that indeed he hardened their hearts so that indeed they would be defeated. Thank you. Well, that's how God destroyed the devil. That's how God destroys evil. That when he hardens people's hearts to the point that they act the way they do. They self-destruct, and God is indeed in his righteousness and mercy and goodness and kindness and how we ought to live our lives comes shining through. And I think that happens anytime. I hope it happens in our society after a horrible assassination of a person that has some prominence in our country. God allows sin to destroy. Hatred will destroy you. You better get rid of hatred. It'll flat destroy you. And we don't want that to happen. All right, we'll start, Lord willing, next time on who only had peace. We're going to sum up this and get through chapter 12 pretty quickly of all the kings that are involved as he gives that total picture of this northern campaign. We'll start there, Lord willing, next time. Thank you.